financial literacy, and the human condition. Welcome to Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Francis Rayam.
Welcome to Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Francis Rayam of Hug Your Student Debt and author of the book Debt or Alive. I'm her co-host, Denise. Happy to be here with you today.
Thanks, Denise. Do I get to say that you're the news director here?
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Because before you were my co-host, of course, you were the news director here at WHMP, and we met sort of obliquely, right? Our ads were here on the radio, and then one day you called, and the rest has been history. Here we are today on this show together. So you have very graciously agreed to tell your story, which is a brave thing, and all the testimonials that we have are all done voluntarily from people who volunteer, of course, to tell their story, all with the idea that they want someone else to be helped by that.
Absolutely.
You know, it's one thing for me to say, "Wait, we can get you out of debt, no worries." It's another thing for real people to say, "This is what I had for a story, and this is where I am now." So. So I'm grateful to you for doing this.
Well, when I become a fan of something because it's helped me, I love to share that information because I do want other people to not be afraid to access this program or to access whatever it is that works. You know something works. You want to share that.
Sure. Well, that's a generous spirit, and actually sometimes that's what gets people into debt. I don't think it was the case for you, but I just think it's remarkable that someone will bare their soul and by extension their husbands. Your husband Ron has
true.
Been dragged into our web.
It's not the first time.
No, but I'm sure that if you were not seeing progress or you were not happy about it, you wouldn't have you literally volunteered. I can tell my story.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you, will you tell the beginning about how you were feeling, maybe before you ever heard our ads on the radio, or what your starting point was?
I'll go back. It's hard to really pick a starting point, but I will go back several years when my husband and I, we were just babes in the woods. We started dating when we were teenagers, and we married very young. I was 22, he was 24. So we've been together a very long time. And I don't remember
that long, Denise.
Yeah, I mean, we're in our mid-50s now.
Yeah.
So okay. I don't remember, for me, anyone ever really talking to me about finances as a child growing up. And growing up, money was always, there was always fear and worry around money growing up.
Yeah.
So when Ron and I got married and we had a child and we were living in an apartment in Connecticut, and I wanted to buy a home. And we had, I think, about $2,500 to our name in some sort of an account somewhere. And we had a financial advisor come in and talk to us about how we were going to make this possible to buy a home so we could raise our family. And it's the American dream,
sure.
Right? And it was really what I wanted for us. So this guy came in and he met with us, and I remember distinctly him closing his book after he spoke with us and heard of what we had in the bank and how much money we made and what our debts were and everything else. He closed his book and he said, I need to be honest with you. You're in no position to buy a home right now.
Wow.
And I highly recommend against it. He left. I cried.
Oh.
And told my husband, because this is who I am, I don't care what he said. We're going to buy a house. We're going to figure out a way to make it happen. And guess what? We did.
You did.
I did.
Sure.
Because there were people at that time who were at institutions willing to lend money to people who only had $2,500 in the bank.
Sure.
So we did. We bought the house, and I don't regret it because it's been a wonderful home where we have raised our family. We still live there now. But looking back, he was absolutely right. We really weren't in a good position to buy a home. So what we did almost immediately was take out a home equity line.
Sure.
To take some of the debt that we had and consolidate that, and we thought that was going to be an answer.
So you bought the house and then realized this guy was right. You're in over your heads, and so one of the things you did to solve your problem is take out a home equity line and transfer your debt onto the home equity line.
Exactly. And
Right.
also to be able to do a few things that we wanted to do to fix up the
And also,
house,
there's always
because
an
the house
also.
is an old house. It's 100 years old,
Right.
and it needed and still needs a lot of work. And so we wanted to, have a guest room and things like that. So
Sure.
we did take out the home equity line. And then I don't remember exactly how many years it was after that we decided we need to refinance now, because we wanted a bit of a lower interest rate and we had more debts. Surprisingly, right now we've got this home equity line. How can we consolidate this debt again? And we had a mortgage broker who was a friend of ours and made it very easy for us and
Wasn't that
attractive
nice?
to us to
Yes.
refinance our home. And at the time, looking back, I didn't know that there were other options. I didn't know that there was someone out there like you at Hug Your Student Debt who could be a sort of financial coach to help us really get out of debt, not just transfer our debt. But I didn't know that was possible.
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure that it was at the time. I started working in this field. I mean, I was always in investments and insurance, but I didn't start working on debt until I had to get myself out, and that was in 2008. So what we've developed, the reason we're patent pending and we think it's such a unique program is because we don't think anybody else is doing it this way. And that is about the coaching. You did try several ways to get out of debt, to move things around, and then found yourself back in debt. It's not necessarily that you are a bad spender, but exactly what you are, there might have been some of that, right? But exactly what you're describing is why I think we stay in debt, because there's always some lender there willing to give us another loan, shift the debt around, make a little money in the middle, give you some breathing room. It feels good for a while, and then life takes over and you've layered on some more debt on the side.
Absolutely. And that's why we refinance, not once, not twice. I believe we refinanced our mortgage 3 times.
Sure.
And each time rolling new debt into our home,
right,
and also taking some money out. And we thought we were being responsible, or at the very least, we didn't think we were being irresponsible.
Sure. Well, it's often, it's a lower interest rate. The payments are going to be the same. Everything feels fine. We forget that we're having to pay all the interest up front again every time we start one of these loans, and we're adding closing costs and whatnot. But it just seems like such a simple solution. And in some cases, it can be a good solution. But for the most part, rolling that unsecured debt in on your mortgage and whatnot is not great. But I wanted to, it's at least not my suggestion, I wanted to go back to something when you said this person came to your house and they closed your book and said you can't buy a house. You're in no position to buy a house. He might well have told you the proper thing, right? But that's why I think the coaching is so important, because the math said you're in no position to buy a house. But realistically, I see people who are trying to buy their first home, and I'm not going to say to them, you're in no position to buy a home, close the book, leave.
Right.
Instead, I say, all right, so you have a goal of buying a home. We want to make sure that once you get the home, that you're able to afford furniture and you're able to have, put dinner on the table. So here's how we're going to go about that methodically. Let's start to do this and find a way to accomplish that goal. That's the coaching part that is so important that I don't think debt companies do, because there's no money in it for them.
And it's and this is true, how often I wanted someone to help and coach me back then, to coach us. I just didn't know where to find that. And you're saying it probably didn't exist. So that makes me feel a little better, but I knew instinctively that that's what we needed.
Well, I was an advisor, right? I was a registered investment advisor and an independent broker, and I thought I was very skilled at helping people manage their finances. And I worked with very talented people who did that at a very high level. And yet there was almost no discussion about debt, never mind budgeting. The idea of budgeting was pretty much, just tell people to add up their bills and make sure they had enough income so you could sell them a life insurance policy or something. But not the kind of work that we do, which is really about getting a sense of control and being able to reach your goals.
And you can reach Dr. Frances Ram at hugyourdebt.org. And I'm thinking back now again to what the options that were available to us. I remember there was a mortgage broker. I remember there was our tax guy who had some type of advice, but nothing specific to what we actually needed to get a handle on our debts and our budget. Nothing.
Yeah, finance is such a broad area. I don't do taxes. I have an accountant who does that, and I don't say that I know how to do taxes, and I'm certainly not a bankruptcy attorney. And I do some investment work for people still because I was trained in that. But it's a broad area and nobody knows all of it. And so we try to be part of a team, right? We will work with your accountant, your attorney, your financial planner to make sure that you're getting that piece that you've been missing, which turns out to be a large part of people's success, it seems.
So I heard your commercials on our radio station, time after time, and it took some time for that to really get through to me that, hey, this might be that missing puzzle piece that I've always been looking for since we were first married all those years ago.
Do you remember what it was in the ads? I mean, we have a lot of different ads, but do you remember what spoke to you personally?
Well, I think the testimonials were really helpful, hearing other people who had gone through it, and they really sound so genuine about the fact that you really helped them.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, well, you know what? If she helped them, I wonder if she might be able to help us.
Yeah, thank you.
And that was definitely one thing. And another thing is, I remember you talking about the fact that we could be in this program and that our payments wouldn't have to go up. Because where is that extra money going to come from?
Right.
And that really resonated with me as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think that that was one of the bottom line, that was not negotiable. We could not raise people's payments in order for them to get out of debt. I mean, if you have extra money, you can always throw it at debt, but I needed to find a way to make it work like that. So you're not out of debt yet. So we would just want to say that you are willing to tell your story even in the middle here, because we do have people who talk about now that they're out, they're on the other side. So how long have you been in the program?
We've been in the program probably about 4 months, I think.
Is that it?
4 or 5 months. It hasn't been quite a happy year.
It seemed longer to me, but okay. So where are you now? Have you paid anything off yet?
We have, yes. We've paid off one debt and we're close to paying off another. And my husband, he works this program. I think it's like a game for him. He goes on our computer every night after I go to bed.
He goes every night?
I get up at 3 a.m. So he's downstairs on the computer playing his little game.
That's so funny.
at hugyourdebt.org. And he's working the program. And he's checking our balances every day, making sure that everything looks good. And
every day?
Yeah,
wow.
He's really good.
I got to talk to him. The whole idea here is to not have to spend all of that time on it.
Well, he's spending time,
report that.
And he's spending time on our bank account too, and our kids' bank accounts, and he's making sure that everybody is solvent.
But that sounds
he's watching it.
Yeah, that sounds to me like it's a pleasant thing for him to do.
Yes, and after we met with you, I remember distinctly after we were driving home, and he said that he felt like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders because he too felt that this was a lifeline, that there was hope, and it took that meeting with you to offer that to him, and he thanked me, and it made me so happy to be able to give him that gift.
Oh,
so we're going to take a quick break right here because we've got more to talk about. This is Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Frances Ram of Hug Your Student Debt. I'm Denise Bozella, WHMP's news director, her co-host, telling my story, bearing my soul this morning. We're going to continue that conversation right after these messages. Welcome back to Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Frances Ram of Hug Your Student Debt, and author of the book Debt or Alive. Let's talk just briefly about your book.
Briefly, well, it's not a how-to book. We actually offer a copy of it along with our client kits to people as some supporting documentation. So the reason we wrote the book is because so many people seem to feel alone, that they're in this problem all by themselves. And the stories are so common. So I contacted a number of people who had volunteered their stories like you're doing today. And another author, Eric Weld, and myself wrote this book. So every chapter is a real life story told in the people's words, as they told it, about everything you can imagine. And then juxtaposing those chapters is some information from me about what might be a solution or something helpful that they could do.
And where can people get your book?
Amazon.com. Look up Debt or Alive, Uplifting and Positive Stories about Life After Debt.
Excellent. My husband has read it. I've skimmed it, but I need to actually go back and read it from cover to cover because I'm interested. These stories were what inspired me. The ones that I heard on the radio were what inspired me to call you in the first place. And now I get to share my story, which is still in progress.
Yes, it's in progress. It's in good progress, I hope.
Yes.
So just before the break, we were talking about, you said that your husband goes onto our software every day on the website and looks at things and manages it, and that you've paid off one debt already and are about to pay off another. And that you gave him this gift. So you were the one that said, okay, we need to do something about this, and you had a discussion with him. But you weren't the one in the family paying the bills, actually
Right.
being the household financier?
Yeah, no, he's that person who manages the actual bill paying. I have my own responsibilities with our finances.
Yeah, yeah.
I take care of the taxes, I take care of the medical bills, and I'm the one who opens the bills
Right.
and files them away and shreds them at the beginning of the year and does so I have
So
I
it's a
guess,
team.
it's a team effort,
Right.
but he's the one who actually goes online and pays the bills and keeps all the
Yeah.
passwords and does all of that kind of thing.
So that's a little unusual. Most of our couples report that the one making the payments is the one that's the most stressed, and they find they have to do something. But there certainly are couples. There I can think of one testimonial with some people named Kevin and Shannon, and she's just she's almost teary eyed, and she's saying, it stressed me out so much to see how miserable he was.
Yeah, and he handles Ron, my husband, handles things probably better than I do. I'm the impatient one. I'm the one who's always looking for answers, always looking for solutions to anything, and wants it to happen now.
Right.
So when we met with you and we came up with that timeline for getting out of debt, and it was, I
Do you remember what
believe,
it was?
believe it was 3 years for, I don't know exactly, I should know this, 3 years for all of our debt except for our mortgage, and then I think maybe 7 years, including the mortgage, which is
From today, from the time you got on, came on
mind
board. Sure.
blowing,
Yeah.
mind blowing that our mortgage could be paid off in that amount of time.
How many years did you have left on the mortgage without the program? Do you remember? When you took
I
this
think
one out?
maybe because we refinanced, remember, three
Right,
times. I think it was back up to about maybe 16 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So paying it off in 7 makes a difference in
Is
your life for sure.
crazy to
Yeah.
think that this is possible.
The crazy part is that people don't believe it can be possible. How are you going to do it on the same payments? And without getting into a thing about it, I would just say, just go fill out the form and you'll see for yourself how we're going to do it. On the same
So
payments.
we actually did. I called you and I set up a meeting with you, and we came to your office and sat down and went through everything. But if someone's not ready to go through that specific step yet, they can just go online and fill out that form and see for themselves.
Yeah, actually, we require that they fill out the form before they come in. So that's step 1. Just go, click the button, fill out the form. You don't have to put account numbers or anything in. It's very basic information.
And that gives you kind of a snapshot of how long it's going to take you to get out of debt.
It gives you exactly how long it will take you to get out of debt. And it will even show you in individual debts when those debts will be retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how much money you'll save and what your effective interest rate will be. And most of our people save at least tens of thousands of dollars and pay less than 3%.
So here's the other part of this, and that is, what does our life look like going forward with money?
Yeah.
And because we are driving old cars right now, and our house is old. It's 100 years old. It needs a lot of work. We have one kid who's still in college. And so we have expenses coming down the line here,
Sure.
some right now and some coming down the line that we need to plan for. And that's something that you're helping us with also.
Yes. Not only plan for them, how do we do that in cash, right? If we can do it in cash, great. But when you're trying to get out of debt and money is tight, it's likely that you won't build up enough cash to buy another car in cash right away, right? And so we have to allow for those things to happen because that's real life. And so right in the beginning, when we're talking, we say, what kind of expenses do you think will come down the pike? And we show you how future debt gets managed, which is one of the reasons we're patent pending right now is because we don't believe anybody's managed future debt the way we do. So you just take your regular debt plan, your husband's in it every night,
Yep.
and he says, I want to buy a car, and he clicks add a debt, and he puts in the car, and he clicks submit, and he sees, here's when the car will get paid off in the program, here's how it affects my timeline, and he can see the illustration, which shows him a debt to income ratio and a bunch of other supporting information, and of course he can call us as well, but even at 2 a.m. he can see, okay, that looks like it's affordable. I think I want to do that, and it doesn't affect us adversely. Or, holy cow, that doesn't look so good. What are we going to do? Let's call Francis and find out.
And that is one of the things that continues to offer us that kind of hope that, okay, so these debts are going to get paid off, but we're not going to just incur so much new debt that gets us into trouble again.
Right.
And then we're back in the same boat.
Yeah, the reason that people get buried in debt over time is because we never quite pay it all off, right? If you're barely able to make your payments and you're driving 2 old cars and you have a kid in college, chances are you're going to take on some new debt before you're ever out of debt over the next 7 years in your case. So that debt can either extend your timeline and add yet another layer of obligations on you, or it can be managed properly, and in which case it can either not extend your timeline or not by much, and in some cases even speed it up, which is way too mind-blowing to go through in this in this kind of a context. But everyone who fills out that form will learn when they speak to us or when they go through a webinar how that works. And so you might add a $20,000 car on top of your 7-year timeline, and you might now get out in 6.5 years. And there's a reason for it, and there's some safety things in place to make sure that we're doing that well.
And my husband probably understands that. I have a little bit harder time understanding how that all works, but because I'm still new at this.
Yeah,
I'm just a few months in.
That's right, and it's really not important that he actually understands it. It's important that he can see it in front of him and that he has faith that we know what we're doing. But it is a complex idea, which is why we do what we do, right? The thing that is remarkable about that is what it means to you in your life. If that car, for instance, gets paid off in 42 months instead of 72 months, then you have some options. You can drive a paid off car in less than 4 years, or you can keep adding that money into your plan, and it can do something good for you. But you don't have those options otherwise if you're only looking at that debt one debt at a time and you're just going to pay it for its full term.
And we had a couple of things happen already. Our daughter was in a car accident and her car was totaled, and we had to get her a new vehicle quickly so that she could get to work, so that she could get to school.
Right.
And we were able to make a phone call to you and say, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. What do you think about this plan? And we plugged the numbers in, and you said, that looks great. That looks like a good plan.
Yep.
And so that kind of coaching in conjunction with the website and being able to put those numbers in and see how it would affect our overall plan was really helpful.
Thanks. And, that's one of the reasons that we're so careful about people's credit, right? A lot of debt plans harm people's credit, but things like that will happen. And, while I'd love it if you can do everything in cash going forward, for a while, you're probably going to need that credit at least. And so keeping your payments on time and paying off debt early, credit reports love that stuff.
Is going to be those curveballs that called life that get thrown at you from time to time too. So helping to be able to hit those curveballs without striking out, if I can use a baseball metaphor.
What does Ron say, if I could ask, about this program? He's in there every night sort of micromanaging things and playing games with the software, which is great because it's interactive and you can do that.
He's not as vocal about things, but I can tell that he is so grateful for this program. And I do know that he's excited about it because he went on a business trip and read your book cover to cover. And I do know that he's excited to have this tool available to us because he's embracing it. Good. 100%. And it's just been something that has given us that, that missing puzzle piece that we never had. And I wish that we had this 20 years ago when we were just starting out as a young family. And one of the things that I am doing now is talking to my daughters, who are both in their early 20s. What's the number one thing that I actually just said to my younger daughter, who's 21, last night, because she just got her first credit card in the mail.
Oh, boy.
I didn't even know she had applied for it.
Yep.
And she lives with us still. And the number one thing I said to her was, do not take on a lot of debt. We need to talk about debt. Don't use that credit card yet until we talk about debt and what it means. And I wanted to tell her our stories. About because I don't think that ever happened for me. Right. And I don't want that to happen for our kids.
Right. That's really incredible, actually, that we're touching the next generation already, and you've only been with us a few months. But that's the goal, is to lift the veil off of this stigma around money and debt and make it something that can be positive and well managed.
And we appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for being that lifeline that's out there. And I love to hear the positive stories from the testimonials and the ads that you're running here on the radio station. And I look forward to telling the conclusion of our story
Yeah, me too.
when that happens.
That's always so much fun to see the progress people are making, even in the early stages like you, and to see how much it changes their attitude about things. And just to wrap up my thoughts, when you were talking about in the beginning days where nobody talked to you about it and all that, the one thing I've noticed is that people are hungry for this. I developed this system because I couldn't find the solutions I needed. And I was a trained professional, right, an expert in the field. And every place I looked, I bumped up against a wall. This harms my credit. This requires more money. This isn't, a legitimate plan. I'm going to get a huge tax bill, whatever it was. So I had to find a way out. And after doing that, I realized if this is just not available to people and people are so hungry for it, I could have an incredible client base of people who are willing to do the work to get themselves out of debt if they just had the right support. And that makes my life, easy and happy. And I get people like you who are saying, yes, my husband looks every night and does this, and we call and we ask questions.
It must be very gratifying to you to
It's
be able to
incredible.
help people like this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I landed here other than I had this problem myself, right? But I'm sure happy that I was able to help people.
And we're happy to be working with you. And more of my story will come out as we continue these shows.
I have no doubt. Thank you, Denise.
You've been listening to Financial Fitness with the Money Doctor, Dr. Frances Ram of Hug Your Student Debt. To learn more about her program, go to hugyourdebt.org. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. This program is made possible by People's United Bank of Amherst, home of Tea with Trish, and Greenfield Community College, increasing access to higher education at a fraction of the cost. We'll be back again next week.